Alright, so here we are in our first world, Mumbo's Mountain. Bottles is telling us that there are actually 3 new moves he can teach us here on the overworld. There's some minions here that are annoying, but not necessarily deadly to fight. And there's also a lot of new mechanics that they're introducing us to right off the bat, like the notes. So there are 100 notes on each world, and the notes actually unlock doors to get to further areas in Grunty's lair. She has musical spells on the doors, apparently, even though, well, I guess it must be something to do with rhyme. But, yeah, the notes are actually one of the most annoying things about this game, because Rare decided that instead of keeping a note as a collectible and having it stay in your inventory for the duration, sort of like what you do with Power Stars, or even within the same game with Jiggies, the notes reset, much more like the coins do in Mario, so that every time you leave the world, or if you die, your note counter is reset to 0, and you have to collect all of the notes over again, meaning that if you get 99 notes and then die, you're going to have to recollect all of the notes again to try to get 100 notes. Up here, we have a Jinjo! Apparently Grunty, for some reason, has a grudge against these Jinjo people, meaning that she's imprisoned 5 of them on each world, and don't even bother trying to fight this bull. You can knock him out, but you can't kill him, so you can just break these hives for extra health if you need it. And health does actually stay on the world. So if I were to leave these 2 honeycomb pieces here and then go and do something else and then come back after taking damage, they'd still be here, so I could just grab them. But yeah, there are 5 Jinjos on each world, and collecting all 5 of them will get you a Jiggy. So let's go ahead and head up here, with this direction. We can go 2 different directions. We can go around the Termite Mound here, or we can go up here to the left. We're actually going to want to go up here to the left first, because we're going to learn a new move up here, as well as collect another Jiggy. Now here's what you're going to need to look for to find bottles on each world, is these little mounds of dirt, which means that, well, Bottles is here. He made a molehill. The Talon Trot. It's an extremely useful move, and possibly the move that you're going to use the most often in this entire game. So you hold down Z and press left C, and all of a sudden we're moving much faster. And there are 10 Jiggies in total in each world, counting the ones that you get for helping the Jinjos. And then to leave the world, all we have to do is to go back to the starting area where we first came into the world, and then we'll leave. Whoa, the camera's kind of tricky out there. And then up here we have some eggs we can grab. This is another quick trademark of the series that would be expanded much on in Banjo Kazooie, and here we have something that wouldn't be. So the tokens there are for a man called Mumbo, whom we haven't met yet. Now normally we can't get up this slope, but Talon Trot allows us to climb it fairly easily. Now the other reason you're going to want to use Talon Trot a lot is because it allows you to be much more precise when you're walking. Something that I haven't really made clear, unless you've kind of seen a visual representation of it, is the fact that in this game, walking with Banjo is very imprecise. He tends to slide around a lot. He doesn't get a lot of traction, you see. He walks using his paws and not claws. So with Kazooie walking instead, she is much more precise and allows you to traverse things much more quickly and easily. So we grab an orange Jinjo as well as a few more notes, and we can also climb up almost sheer slopes like this one that we would normally just slide down and be not able to reach everything. So there's 3 notes on each platform. There's also a yellow Jinjo here that we can collect. That's why I came and got the Talon Trot first instead of going to another area lower down in the mountain, because I knew that it was going to be useful to grab stuff. So we have 50 notes, which is enough to open the first note door, as Bottles is informing us. I also picked up a yellow Jinjo, so we only have the green and purple ones left to find. There we go. Now, if my controls seem if I seem like I'm moving around a little bit jittery, my movements seem a little jittery, it's not because I had a lot of coffee today. It's because I actually have a brand new control stick in my N64 controller that I just installed a couple of days ago, and this is the first major test that I've had, aside from a game of Mario Party. So this is Conga. He's going to show up in Banjo Tooie as well in a almost completely different role from where he is here. But all he does here is throw oranges at us, and we've got to get him to throw them at us to press the switches so that, you'll see. Now, how did we miss that one? Ow. Yeah. It's alright to take a hit, because we got 5 hits. You can take, or 6 hits actually. We can take a lot of damage before you go down. But if your timing's good enough, you don't have to worry about it. And that nets us another Jiggy. So, the Jiggy puzzles in this part of the game aren't that hard. Now, another thing we're going to want to do right away is to, well, let's go over here and see what's up over here. This is Chimpy. Basically, you're Diddy Kong and Pixie to Conga's Donkey Kong and Pixie. And he wants an orange. We can get an orange for him by climbing the tree here and grabbing one. And then we can just run away from Conga's throwing oranges and get it to Chimpy. He calls us fat, and then he grabs the orange and runs off, leaving a platform for us to get it slightly higher, and as well as a Jiggy. Basically, Jiggies are your every solution to this game. Every time you solve somebody's problem, you're going to get a Jiggy to help repay you. So there's some more eggs up here, as well as another tutorial from Bottles. Let's go ahead and talk to him and see what he's got for us. Learn the ancient ways of the egg, eh? Kazooie loves to insult people. She's probably the best character out of this game simply because she's so belligerent to everyone. So we can shoot eggs 2 different ways. This is again something that would be greatly expanded on in the sequel, as well as much improved, simply because these the mechanics for this aren't exactly precise, even with the new control stick I have, which I wanted to mention again because I'm really proud of it. Since I bought one off of Amazon and installed it myself, and it's a really, really awesome control stick that basically acts more like a GameCube stick than an N64 stick, meaning it's much more precise. So to shoot eggs, you press Z and then press up C. Alright, and then you can backflip over. Whoops, nope, too slow there. Basically, the idea here is that you want to shoot Conga with eggs and then jump over his oranges, but seems like I bugged him a little bit there. Let's back off and try it again. Hey, Conga. There we go. There we go. So this is... I wouldn't call this a boss, per se, but he's the closest thing this level has to a boss. And then by beating Conga, by hitting him with 3 eggs, even though the other ones that kind of glitched hit him anyway, we get another Jiggy. Now, we could go down and collect that Jiggy right now, but I'm not going to, because there's another thing on these platforms that we're going to want to grab before we do that. Okay, we can grab some more eggs here, but those aren't what I'm really after, because eggs are plentiful in this game. You're never really in danger of running out unless you're in the middle of a boss fight or something and there's no chance to replenish it. If you're just in a level, you shouldn't have to worry about it. There's another Mumbo token, and then here's a switch. We actually haven't learned the move needed to press this switch yet, but it will be important, so keep that in mind for a little bit later. Let's grab this Jiggy and head off in the other direction while Conga throws a few spite oranges at us. Just use the Talon Trot to ascend this cliff. Now, you can't climb this gray rock here to our right with the Talon Trot. It's too steep, even for Kazooie to cross. Now, we could go inside the Termite Mound here, but there's nothing for us to do in there much yet because, well, we're not a termite and they just kick us out. So instead, we're going to be coming up here to the head of Mumbo's Mountain. This isn't quite the top of Mumbo's Mountain, but this is the main plateau. And here's another move from Bottles. This is the Beak Buster. Basically the ground pound in Mario 64. See, this is one thing that Mario 64 didn't have. In Mario 64, you started out with all of your moves, and part of the game's challenge was learning how to use all those moves effectively. In Banjo Kazooie, you start off with only a couple of basic moves, jumping, running, and things like that, and you have to learn them all as the game goes on. And you have to learn how to use them in the levels that they're a part of, as well as later on throughout the game. And we can use the Beak Buster to smash these huts and grab us some items. Now there's notes on top of the huts. There's also items inside of the huts that we're going to want to make sure to grab. So we can do this right here. Now you can see that Jiggy floating down there to the right. We're going to collect that later. We've got some more stuff to do. There's some more eggs here. Then there's these guys right up here. Juju, Mumbo's totem pole. We can feed them eggs. Now, there is something to get up there. You can probably saw it at the very top of the screen when I jumped. You want to make sure to only kill 3 of them, not the 4th, because then you can jump up on top of their head, jump up here, and grab yourself another honeycomb piece. Otherwise, you're going to have to quit the level and come back, let the totem pole reset, and do the whole thing over again. The only things that you carry out of levels after you finish them are the moves that Bottles teaches you, Jiggies, and eggs, as well as one other collectible item, a couple of other collectible items that we haven't got yet. I hate this. This is what I mean that the egg shooting isn't very precise. There's a delay on it at this point, and actually physically aiming it means you have to turn Banjo around, which is really hard to do if you're not in first person, because you can't tell exactly where he's facing. You really have to fire a couple of eggs to check the range before you can even do anything. There's a dude right in that hut. I killed him. He wasn't doing anything there, but he was just hanging out. And, well, there's a green Jinjo here, so might as well grab that. There's another note here. There's an extra life in that hut, so that's useful. We're probably going to wind up with like something close to 9 lives through the first couple of worlds here, simply because you're not in much danger of dying, at least this early in the game. There's another Jiggy in that hut, so yeah, it's definitely worth checking all the huts to grab all of the items. There was a Mumbo token under the stairs, and there's also another Jiggy up here in this skull's eye. Very easy. Now, let me see. We could go in and talk to the Denizen of the skull. Yes, somebody does indeed live in there. But let's go ahead and come down the slope here to grab us some more notes and another Jiggy, as well as the last Jinjo. He's down at the bottom of the slope here. We're almost actually done with this level. This level is not very big. Honestly, compared to later levels in this same game, or even later games on the N64, the levels in this game aren't very big, and especially not early on. This level, for instance, is extremely small. It's just basically one area with a smaller area inside of it. Even like the first level of Donkey Kong 64 just dwarfs this one. But, you know, it's not bad for a first level. It's definitely more visually interesting and stimulating than Bob-omb Battlefield is in Mario 64. Bob-omb Battlefield is basically, at this, you know, in hindsight, it was great for the time, but in hindsight, it just looks like badly shaded polygons. And for getting all 5 Jinjos, we get another Jiggy. How many are we up to now? 8, 9? We only have 1 left to go. Wow, nice. So that means we only have, there are 2 honeycomb pieces on each level, 100 notes, 10 Jiggies, and 5 Jinjos. We've already got the Jinjos. Let me think. We need 1 more Jiggy, 1 more honeycomb piece, and about 12 notes. So we're almost done. Go ahead and climb back up here. You don't have to use a Talon Trot to climb the areas that look slatted, because those are, I guess, stairs. Even though they aren't actually stairs, they're just different textures. But yeah, you can climb those with Banjo. Apparently he can walk upstairs. So let's, before we try to go in the Termite Mounds, let's go ahead and talk to the guy who lives in this skull first. Before we wake him up, let's go ahead and grab his notes here. Kind of steal from him. Uh-oh. We're Mumbo token short. I must have missed one. Let me see here. Oh, there's just eggs up there. Sometimes there's actually Mumbo tokens hidden up in the rafters of places like this, but I guess not this time. Since we don't have enough tokens, unless there's one hidden back here. Nope. Since we don't have enough tokens, we won't disturb his sleep. We'll just go and find the last one, and then we'll come back. I think I know where it is, actually. Let's go ahead and check out the Termite Mounds. That's the one place we haven't been yet. Oh yeah, and another thing is the enemies, once you kill them, they stay dead. They don't respawn in this game, which is a nice little bit of continuity. So, like I said, the termites, he would have just said no bears allowed. The termites don't like us being in here, but it doesn't matter what they want, because we can climb, can't we? We got Talon Trot. There's a Mumbo token here. That's the 5th one we need, and no, we can't. That's too steep even for Kazooie, just like the gray rocks outside. So, yeah, instead, we're actually going to have to go see the guy inside the skull, because we can't do anything about getting up that slope on our own. We actually need his help. So let's go ahead and get in. Yeah, there's nothing in this level that's really going to kill you unless you're really bad at video games, so don't worry about it. So we can go ahead and talk to him. This is Mumbo, one of the most memorable characters in this game, and honestly a fan favorite. He returned for Banjo Kazooie in a big way. He's basically a shaman who was turned into a skull face by Grunty, the witch, and whose magic tokens, who requires to use his magic, were scattered across each world. So by gathering them, we're able to use his magic again. His magic being incantations that transform us into varying animals and other things. In this case, it's a termite. And the termite transformation has two big advantages. One, it has a much more floaty jump than Banjo does normally, meaning you can cross gaps a little bit better. Number two is that it can climb pretty much anywhere. Unless it's a vertical slope, you're going to be able to traverse it. Look at this. I'm pretty much climbing on a wall at this point. Unfortunately, the one problem that the termite does have is that it is extremely skittish, and it's really hard to precisely control. And with this new controller that I've got, it's hard to precisely control anything. At least until I've gotten used to how sensitive the joystick is. Because that's the thing, is that I'm used to an N64 controller having a huge dead zone in the middle of its control stick, but now I don't have a dead zone at all. So it's definitely a big difference. The termites think that we're another termite, so they don't try to kick us out. We can collect the last 6 notes, last 5 notes, last 6 notes, something like that we were missing. Whoop, don't want to fall down here. And I believe there is something for us at the top of this hill, if we can actually make it up there. We have to continue to traverse the inside of the Termite Mound, basically. That's why I was trying not to fall down, is because if you fall there, at that gap, you fall all the way down to the bottom and you have to make these jumps again. Not that these are particularly difficult jumps, it's not like you're making them over a pit of lava or something like that, but, you know, it can be tricky with the perspective. That's the biggest problem with this game, is that the camera, well, one of the bigger problems with this game, just like with Mario 64, the camera system hasn't aged particularly well. And since the N64 doesn't allow for very fine control over the camera, it's basically just big sweeping shots that you got, or fixed perspectives like this area, because rares like, oh, we can't, you know, they can't really control it in such a tight area. We'll just give you a basic recommended angle, and if you're not good enough to make it from there, well, tough. So we can climb out up here now that we finally cleared those stupid jumps. There's an extra life over here. I'm going to want to mark very carefully. Whoa. Whoa, Nelly. Okay, yeah. This controller is almost a little bit too sensitive. I'm going to have to get used to this, because I'm almost running full speed and I barely have the control stick tilted halfway. So up here is the last jiggy of the level. Now you might think we're done here, right? Nope. We've got to climb down here. You can hear that fanfare that happens. That happens when you get all 10 jiggies in the level. Now down here, you remember we couldn't climb these cliffs as Banjo and Kazooie? Well, there's a honeycomb piece that we can get as a termite. It's easiest to get it as a termite because if you try to get it as Banjo Kazooie, you can slide down that slope to try to do it, but you know, it's hard. Okay, and then there's one more thing that we've got to do in this level before we're done, and that's actually the absolute last thing that we have to do in this level, and then we can just leave it and never come back, because we're come back over here to where Conga was, jump back up on the platforms, over here, right, and stomp this switch. That makes a jigsaw piece appear on top of the portal in the overworld, which means that we're going to have to be a termite when we leave this world to be able to collect it, because we can't climb that slope. Again, it's the gray stone to actually be able to get it. We're gonna have to leave as a termite and climb up to the top of that area. You're going to see witch switches like that in every level, and they all make jiggies appear on the overworld. So you're going to want to make sure to hit them all, otherwise you're not going to collect all the jiggies. And to finish this game, you don't necessarily need to collect all the Jiggies, but especially in the early going, you want to try to collect as many as you can. And honestly, if you're not playing a game like this to try to get everything that you can that's in the game to actually get, then there's really no reason to play this game at all. So, at least that's what I'm saying. So, as the Termite, we can just climb right back down this slope that we did as Banjo Kazooie to collect the last couple of notes and Jiggies and stuff that we had out here. And then we can just climb up this area to the portal to the overworld and head on out.